Hi everyone, welcome to Top Tat Cook. I'm Joanne, and today I've got Maria with me.
Hi, thanks
Welcome.
Joanne. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you very much for coming in and chatting to us. We're going to be talking about downsizing and then apartment living and the pros and cons of apartment living, particularly in relation to body corporates. Because I think, if you're downsizing for any sort of a reason, but particularly if you're thinking about it for retirement purposes, I think there's lots of things to take into account, isn't there?
Yes, there certainly is.
Yeah, and you owned an apartment or a townhouse, wasn't it?
It was a townhouse.
With a body corporate.
Yes.
So you've got some experiences there that you can enlighten us about, because I think there's like costs associated with it.
There
isn't
certainly
there?
are.
And there's also like body corporate meetings as well.
Yes.
Isn't there? So there's a management committee.
Yes.
And then I think the other thing also is there's the legislation that governs body corporates is different as well. So there's a few factors there, isn't there, for us to chat about?
Most definitely. And basically each of those three items was the reason why I've chosen not to actually retire into a body corporate situation if I can avoid it. I had bought a unit in 2012 as a retirement unit for my husband and I, to be used as a base for when we grey nomad around Australia and so forth. Unfortunately that didn't work due to the death of my husband before that, and so I kept the townhouse for a couple of years after he passed away and have since sold it. But I sold it because I'd had such bad experiences in dealing with body corporate matters. And these are things that people really need to take into consideration when you're embarking on buying into a body corporate situation. So then I discovered how difficult it was when you lived just 2 or 3 doors down from the chair of the body corporate. So you're under constant scrutiny. So if your tenants step the slightest bit out of what they should be doing, it was constantly on the phone to the real estate agent constantly on the phone to me to address the situation. So I'd been very clear with the real estate agency that dealt with my tenants that they were to oblige by the bylaws, and they parked their car in the garage or they parked it out on the street. And I thought everything was resolved. That we had this situation. We said, yep, that's fine. And then I discovered after my husband had passed away and I was going down to manage the property and check it out, that some car parks had been painted in front of my unit. And I was at sort of the end of the unit block, and there was a grass park. There had been a turning point at the end right in front of my units where cars could turn up and the rubbish truck and so forth and come out. And instead, road markings for car parks had been added perpendicular to that in front of my front door. And so that set off a whole train of me going back to the body corporate committee to say what's going on here. I read all of the minutes to the body corporate meetings, and there was reference to repainting of the lines, not adding new lines. And so I took them to task. The body corporate's response was, your tenants park there. They're car parks for your tenants. You should be happy. And I went, no, my tenants have been told to either park in the garage and any extra cars are to park out on the road as per the bylaws. Oh no, but your tenants park there. And so they had made their own law and painted it in front of my unit. And I was really disappointed with that. And so I spoke to the Queensland government has a body corporate commission, and so I spoke to the Body Corporate Commission about it, and they said, well, you can lodge an appeal about that decision because the Body Corporate refused to unpaint the lines. And I said, well, this is impacting on the ability of anyone to drive in and reverse out of my garage. The lines went straight up in line with the my roller door. I was just dumbfounded that they could make this decision without even consultation with the owner of the property that it was impacting on the
That
most.
seems weird.
So I went through and went through the process and paid for mediation.
Oh, right.
And the body corporate never appeared.
To the mediation?
No, and they're not even obligated to do that. So that would then force me into a court situation with them.
Oh,
and at that
right.
point I had decided I've had enough, I'm selling up. And I sold the unit while those sort of negotiations was the decision had come through, and I just let it ride, and so that was that.
Well,
so I'd paid money to have to go through a process that the body corporate didn't even bother rocking up for.
Well, that's very disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was left a bad taste in my mouth. So when a good friend of mine who was in a similar circumstance of having a husband pass away, but couldn't stay in her own home and had to sell it and was looking at townhouse complexes, I just said, be very wary of body corporate situations, because literally you can't do anything without body corporate permission for it. And they can be either very obliging or very obstructive, and my experiences unfortunately were very obstructive. Fortunately for her, so far everything's worked out fine for her, so she's in a great complex with great managers and with chairs of body corporates who are not quite as rigid or unobliging as mine. Yeah.
I think that's very good advice for people who are thinking about, moving into an apartment with a body corporate. So perhaps just in summary, like things to take into consideration, and just one thing that I would add is like getting hold of those minutes from the AGM, so that you can read the minutes before you buy the property, so you know what the issues, whether there was any history of, of disputes and what those disputes were around as well.
Yeah. That's a great option and suggestion, whereas I went in completely ignorant, buying it, thinking, yes, this is great, you've got people who look after the common areas, it's minimal impact on you as a person, that you can just maintain your own little yard, but there's a lot more complications with regard to that. And yeah, it would be great to see those minutes to see what are potential problems or what are the key issues in the area, because every single body corporate meeting that I received minutes for, there were always parking issues associated with the complex.
That was the glaring sort of issue.
Yeah, it was, and especially in older complexes that unfortunately have minimal parking. So bear that in mind, not just for retirees, but for young couples and so forth.
Yeah, that's right. Like maybe a first house or a first, a first home.
Yeah, and
they're the things to think about, aren't they?
That's it.
Thanks very much, Maria, for
Thank you.
For sharing those thoughts with us. In summary, some of the things that just for people to be aware of is like do your research, and that's also not only into the minutes of the meetings, but also in terms of the cost structure. So you've got ongoing fees, you've like body corporate fees, you've got a sinking fund. Have a look at how much money's in that sinking fund. Have a look at what the ongoing costs are that come out of that sinking fund.
Yes.
And also in terms of like what do you pay for? What does the body corporate pay for? Perhaps like painting, and fences, those sorts of things. And I think they're the main ones, aren't they? Just to be aware of.
Yes. Yeah. Most definitely.
And bylaws, I guess. We'll close and say it's your responsibility to read those bylaws, and if you rent out your apartment to tenants, the tenants also have a responsibility to read those bylaws and to understand them as well. Yeah. Because they can be quite difficult beasts in themselves.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. So just on that note, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.